Okay, can you see my slide?
Yes.
Yes, yes.
Yes. Beautiful slide.
Okay, so first, Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. So today, our group will present about EcoSounder and SONAR. Uh, our group consists of me, Umi Nakia, Nurfahana Sakina, and Nur Azidah. Okay, so for this presentation, the learning outcomes are to study about EcoSounder and SONAR, to investigate the function and principle of EcoSounder, and to investigate the type, principle, and applications of SONAR. Okay, so first, we move on to the EcoSounder. Okay, so first I'll explain about the history of the EcoSounder. Okay, so after the Titanic accidents in 1912, Alexander Bem, which is a German physicist, conduct some research to find a way on how to detect the iceberg. But instead of detecting the iceberg, he found a way that he found a technique of eco sounding which can be used to measure the water depth, but cannot detect the iceberg. Okay, so eco sounding is based on the principle that water is an excellent medium for the transmission of sound waves, and that the sound pulse will bounce off a reflecting layer, returns to its source as echo. Okay, so there are several functions of echo sounder, but I'll explain three, which are: the first one is locating shipwrecks, reefs, and sunken trees. As we all know, echo sounder can measure the water depth, so it can reach to the bottom of the sea. So it can locate the shipwrecks or any sunken trees or reefs under the water. And the second one is determining the bottom contours and composition. It is to recognize the soft mud, gravel, sand, and rock, such as in bathymetry. And the third one is determining the water depth and locating the hazards. It is to prevent any collisions in navigation with unseen underwater rock or reefs. Okay, so to determine the water depth, the sound pulse is transmitted into the water, and the time interval between the emission and return of a pulse is recorded. And so we can get the formula, which is distance equal to speed times with time divided by 2. Divided by 2 because the pulse travels 2 times, which is during the emission and during the return to the transducer. So we only want to know the distance. So that's why we need to divide it by 2. Okay, so next we go to the principle. Okay, so for the principle, it starts at the recorder. The recorder will send a signal to pulse generator, which then will trigger a pulse and simultaneously starts the recorder trace. And the rate may be between 5 to 600 pulses per minute, depending on the depth of water itself. And the lesser the depth scale, the faster the pulse repetition frequency will be. So on the next one, the pulse from pulse generator is activate the transmitter, which will then send an electric pulse to the transducer, and the transducer will convert the electric pulse to the sound energy, which will produce a pulse to be transmitted vertically down the ship. And then the sound energy will travel to the bottom, hit the bottom, and be reflected back to the transducer. And the transducer then converted the sound energy back to the electric pulse to be sent to the receiver. And the received pulse is then processed and amplified. And lastly, at the recorder, the amplified pulse will create a physical mark on paper or visual blip or digital signal. Okay, so there are two types of operations in echo sounder, which use single beam and multi beam. Single beam echo sounder is generally equipped with a transceiver, which is transducer and receiver mounted to the ship, and it is used to measure the water depth directly beneath the research vessel. But in multi-beam, the multi-beam echo sounder emits sound waves in a fan shape, and it uses beam forming to extract directional information from the returning sound waves, producing a swath of depth readings from a single ping. So as you can see from the picture, the difference between the single beam echo sounder and multi-beam echo sounder. The multi-beam echo sounder will cover a wide range of area with a single ping. Okay, so next we move on to sonar.
Okay. Um, for the sonar, sonar stands for sound navigation and ranging. Sonar system have many similarity to radar and electro-optical system. The operation of sonar is based on the propagation of wave between a target and a receiver. The sonar different from the radar and electro-optical system um, because of the energy that observed on the sonar based on the sound wave system. Therefore, the sonar is a device that is used to find the object underwater using the sound wave. Next, the sonar also used for the purpose of fishing to find the fish in the water. Next, there are two types of sonar, which is the active sonar and passive sonar. The difference between active sonar and passive sonar is the active sonar will emit the signal, while the passive sonar did not emit the signal. Okay, the active sonar, the transducer in active sonar will emit the signal or the sound pulse into the water. If there is an object in the path of the sonar, the sound will bounce off the object and it will return as an echo to the sonar transducer. If the transducer is equipped with the ability to receive the signal, the sonar can measure the strength of the signal and also the distance of the object and the transducer. Next, for the passive sonar, it is mainly used for the military purpose. Um, the military vessel will not emit the signal, but it will only detect the noise from the outside objects such as the submarine or the ship and also the marine animal. The advantage of the passive sonar for the military vessel is the vessel can quietly listen to the ocean without them being detected for the mission. Okay. Next is the principle of the sonar. Firstly, the transducer, suppose that the sonar is used to determine the depth of the sea. The transducer will emit the signal with the very high frequency for about 50,000 hertz. And this high frequency will strike the until the bottom of the water. And if the sound, if the signal uh, to the bottom, it will bounce back to the transducer, and the transducer will detect the signal. Okay, thank you.
Okay, next I will talk about the use of sonar. Okay, there are about 8 use of sonar. Firstly, sonar can be used to estimate the depth, range, and direction of arrivals of objects, such as vessel and submarine. Second, it can be used for underwater communication, but it only applied to special sonar. Special sonar at transducer based on my research lah. At transducer there are components that are fit with use in the communication where we can benefit from imaging. In oil, it also can find application detecting possible damages at the submarine commercial fishermen for fish finding. It can find vertically and horizontally. Next, it also can detect the enemy vessel and apply in medical imaging. Okay. For the medical, there is a method known as sonogram. Okay, we use the and the echoes recorded to create image. So the sound propagation will create the black, the tumor, candle, etc. Okay, there is a pros and cons of this sonar. Okay, sonar is the only one system that used to find and identify objects in the water effectively. It is because the sound wave travel further. Okay, next, it also been used for various water-based activity. This is due to the fact that sound wave do not attenuate much in the water compared to radar and light wave. It also a very accurate system and not too expensive if compared to the other application. Okay, for the disadvantages, the waves that been emitted interfere with whales, hence it threatens the marine life. Okay, the sonar they slowly generate slow rolling sound wave which may reach 235 decibel, but suppose the common decibel is supposedly to 130, so it is too much, so it can cause death. Okay, it also generate a lot of noise, and the acoustic wave used in the sonar are affected by sound velocity, and it are okay.